special guest today here to end the year. Martyn Ware, from known pioneer in modern music with Human League, Heaven 17 still going strong, and bunch of other projects. Martyn, it's an honor to see you and have you on.
No, thank you very much.
And after that long introduction, talk about some of your the early days in Sheffield. How come there was so much electronic music happening there?
Okay, so I don't know for the American audience, I don't know if you know about Sheffield, but basically it's the center of the steel industry in Britain,
Oh,
or
okay,
used to be. It used to be. It's the equivalent of Pittsburgh, I suppose, or
okay,
something like that. Um, and when Margaret Thatcher's government came in the 1970s, her main mission was to try and destroy the power of the working class and the unions. So she basically withdrew all the funding for the nationalized steel industry and created mass unemployment, particularly in Sheffield. There was, I think, 80,000 jobs went in like a couple of years.
okay.
Now, I never wanted to work in the steel industry anyway,
I
so,
don't blame you.
but it affects, the economy of the
Yeah,
town,
of course.
city. I mean, Sheffield's 600,000 people. It's not a small town.
Okay,
Um, and so consequently, a lot of unemployment. Um, and yeah, but there was a strange and fortuitous side effect of it all, which was there were a lot of small engineering factories,
okay.
like finishing cutlery or grinding and all that stuff, that were dotted around the city centre. And a lot of those went out of business. So
I
there
see.
were a lot of empty industrial properties
Hmm,
which you could pick up for peanuts, right? And Sheffield's always been a very kind of community. It's often called England's biggest village.
okay.
It's a
Didn't know
very
that.
community-based thing. It's also
Huh.
very socialist. I know that's a dirty word in America, but in
Yeah.
Britain, not yet, thank God. Um, and so people look after each other, and consequently, you can't destroy the spirit of a city
Yeah, of
by
course.
taking money away from it in that situation. It just made people more resourceful and
Hmm.
resilient. And so we got together, and I met the other members of Hem 17 and a lot of people who I was involved with the Human League in a youth arts club called Meat Whistle in the
Oh,
center of the city, where people from all different backgrounds from different schools across the city met. And it's meant to be like a kind of drama-based kind of youth club, really. And once a year, they put big events on at the city, at the Civic Theatre. But really, it was just like a a safe space for messing around. And we kind of had imaginary bands
hmm.
with names like Musical Vomit
Oh,
and
that's interesting.
Underpants and let's see. These normally existed just for one day, and we performed
We'll
to
just
our
play.
fans, right? Um, VDK and the Studs, and it kind of merged with the start of punk and stuff like that. So we were messing around at being musicians. None of us were trained musicians.
Who were you
Uh,
listening? Who were you listening to at the time that was
oh
influencing
yeah,
that?
so a lot of glam rock, a lot of
Roxy Music?
Roxy music. I think five Roxy music gigs in or around Sheffield, uh, in the north of England, anyway. Um, when Eno was still a member,
Oh, that
so
must have been
right at
great.
the start. And still love that first album. I still think it's probably
Oh,
my
and
favorite.
the artwork and everything.
And the
It's just,
artwork
ah,
and it changed. I mean, it really was a handbrake turn for me because before
mm,
that, I was into. kind of Deep Purple
I
and
remember
but
those
also
bands.
glam acts as well. Obviously Bowie um, and T-Rex and stuff like that. So, but when Roxy Music came along, it kind of, I don't know, it opened up something in my mind, thinking it's a very evocative kind of band, isn't it? It's
Oh,
like
it
really,
is. It
it
is.
really, it really nurtures your imagination.
It
Yeah.
did. And the videos they did, those early videos, which
Oh,
really
tremendous.
amazing live videos.
Yeah. I mean, seeing them live it was really fascinating because there was clearly the way they presented themselves on stage was they were all more or less in a line apart from the drummer. So you had obviously Brian Ferry and his keyboard in the center, wanting to be the big I am, you
Right.
know. But the truth of the matter is that Eno was upstaging him all the time,
He
not
was.
deliberately. It was just really, it was just a fascinating character. It just mesmeric. That's the word I'd use.
Now, what were
So
the
I
go
could
ahead.
see why there was a lot of tension between the two of them and they split up.
They both won center stage. So what
Yeah.
was the early instruments you were playing? Was it the Linn drum? What other
No, that's way
synthesizers?
way before the Lindrum. I mean,
Really? Okay.
Meat was sold. My first instrument was a dual stylus stylophone.
Wow.
And then as we slowly got more kind of serious about, and it was the start of punk, and we started realizing that a lot of these bands were getting independent record contracts that we were going to see, and we thought they are terrible.
Mm.
A lot of them were really not very good at all, but they were getting contracts. And we thought maybe there's an outside chance we can put a record out at least.
Right.
And so myself, and by this time, myself and Ian Marsh from the Human League, we both left school and started um, doing jobs. And strangely, we both ended up doing the same job, albeit for different companies, which was being a computer operator.
Oh, okay.
And now, such a thing is like ancient history now, but back in the day, there were no PCs.
Right, right.
There was no. So this was quite futuristic, and the computer, the mainframe computer I was working on, believe it or not, had a memory of 32 megabytes. The whole
That's
computer.
amazing. Oh man, that's something.
I know it was
Wow.
just about powerful enough to do like payroll and stuff like that.
It's
And
amazing. When you think about it now where we're at, right? I
well,
mean,
I mean, even in the early 80s, by that time there were kind of LED watches that had more memory than that.
right. Oh yeah.
So this was in 75, 6, something like that.
Oh wow. And that's really something to think about. Now, your first album record was what? Reproduction with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Human League?
yeah. Well, no,
Was that
actually,
sooner than that?
there was a single. The breakthrough was a single called "Being Boiled,"
Okay.
which was put out on an independent label in Edinburgh called Fast Records, and that caught the attention of a lot of people by word of
Mm,
mouth. I think it sold about 6, 7,000 in a couple of months, and that people went, "Hold on a second."
yeah.
Um, and most importantly, John Peel.
There you
Oh,
go. Of course.
I suppose now people wait for recommendations from their friends or they go to Spotify playlists or whatever it is. He really defined the taste of young people in the nation.
Yes, I agree.
People would wait for his. He used to do a top 100 every Christmas, and people would religiously look down it. And it's not like, they'd actually have to go and buy the records to hear
Yeah,
them,
I'm sure. He made such
um,
an influence.
or record them off the radio, on
Now you
cassette.
stayed with Human League a little bit. Why did you leave and start you did British Electric Foundation? Was that
Yeah, yeah.
what happened? Why did
Um,
you?
Well, we were touring. We got signed to Virgin on the back of the success of Being Boiled, and Virgin. We did their first album reproduction, which was a critical success, but it didn't really sell as many as they'd hoped. However, it was, we were the darlings of the press at that point. So
Hmm.
the second album, Travelogue, came out, and that was our attempt at going for commercial success, but we were still sounded like we came from Mars. So,
Blech.
but we were proud of it, and on that album we tried to write some proper hit singles, and they got us on top of the pops, and it kind of was growing, but not quick enough for them.
Okay.
So basically, behind the scenes, uh, our manager and the record company were dropping a word into Phil's ear saying, "You should be a star. The other guys are holding you back." And then one day I turned up for a rehearsal, and out of the blue they said, "We want you to leave the band, Martin."
Oh
And
man, like that.
bear in mind that Phil was my closest friend for 4 years. I brought him into the band.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah, it was my band. It was
Yeah.
mine and Ian's band. He was my school friend, and I brought him into the band, so I felt very betrayed.
Ah, that's a shame.
Yeah, and
That's funny how
the con
bands work, working with people sometimes. It gets, especially musicians, it gets kind of weird.
well, no, we were just we just saw each other as brothers in arms. I mean, you occasionally have
Yeah.
disagreements, but mainly about creative things. Nothing
Okay.
else.
So
It
keep
wasn't
going
like,
here.
some bands literally were not. It's not like Fleetwood Mac or something with people flying on different
That's
aircraft.
true.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
sorry. Go on.
so you left there and then you went this British Electric Foundation. Some
Yes.
great stuff there. Keep talk
Yeah.
about that.
So essentially, in the aftermath of this enormous shock, I was highly motivated to prove them wrong. So Ian, at the last minute, who was privy to what had been going on before the split, decided to come with me, which is great.
Hmm.
So we had an idea to form a production company. And to cut a long story short, we were helped by Bob Last, who managed both bands for a while, um, both the new Human League and Hammer 17 and BEF. And he said, "Have you thought about doing a production company? And we could sign you as a production company to the record company, and we can design a contract, an innovative contract, which is like a kind of mini Motown. It's like signing a
Oh, okay.
production label, right?
Yeah.
Where me and Ian would write the songs, produce the acts for different group identities or soloists or whatever." And we actually signed a contract saying they would finance up to 6 albums a year,
Hmm.
which seems insane now looking back on it.
Yeah.
And we thought, well, whatever happens, this sounds like an exciting idea. So that's what we did. And then Glenn, the lead singer of Hem 17, came back to Sheffield. He'd been down in London to find his famous fortune as a
Hmm.
photographer. But Glenn had been the singer in all these joke bands that we started off with. He
Oh,
was
that's
always
funny. Ah,
So he'd moved down to London, and he would have been the person instead of Phil we asked had he
ah,
been in Sheffield. So it was like a kind of revolving doors moment. He came back to Sheffield literally the day before the split happened. And I took
ah.
him down a pub, said, "Do you want to be the lead singer of a new band? I've got an idea for the name. I want to call it Hem 17, which is based on an imaginary group from Anthony Burgess's Clockwork Orange novel,
Oh, okay.
also in the film as well." And he immediately said yes, and within a week, we'd written "We Don't Need This Fascist Screw Thing."
Wow, that is something. So you guys are really meant to be together and work as a group.
Absolutely. Well, Glenn was one of my oldest friends. I mean, we met when I was 17, he was 15.
So you got a record contract, what, 1980, Heaven 17, and you just took
Yeah,
off,
80,
right?
80, yeah.
Yeah, you've had some amazing, amazing hits too. I mean, and
Yeah, I mean, not as big as we wanted, because we thought what we were doing was very innovative, and that was the driving, principle behind it. Um, and very proud of it from a creative point of view. But again, the record company, uh, we were starting to get popular, but we weren't performing live because it was about the time that MTV started,
okay.
and we thought we'd actually were quite heavily unrecouped with the early Human League because they brought us onto a lot of big tours like Susie and the Banshees twice, Iggy Pop, Peru Boo,
Oh,
Stranglers.
wow.
Yeah, and we
Great.
and in those days you had to pay money to the promoter, to the band management of the headliners to get onto the tour.
Oh my
Different
gosh.
different model now. So we did that, and we realized how unrecouped we were.
Hmm.
So we thought, well, look, if we're going to spend this money and the record company are willing to forward the money and it goes on our account anyway,
Right.
why don't we try and future-proof ourselves by doing videos instead of spending endless money and time on the road? And we'll use our
Smart.
time, we'll use our time more gainfully in the studio, So
That made sense, especially you were right there at the start of MTV.
that's right,
So that was a
exactly.
perfect timing
Yeah,
for that.
exactly.
Let Me Go is a great song. Love
Thank
it.
you so much.
Love it. I mean, I was watching it again before I spoke to you, and
It's a good
it's
video, isn't it?
it
Yeah,
is great video.
yeah,
And Temptation I really love. So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you guys really captured that pop synth pop world that you were
yeah,
in. You were
yeah.
part
We're
of
still
that
doing
whole
it.
group.
Yeah, yeah.
And the 80s had a sound. It just, I remember whether it's the synthesizers, the Prophet 5, I don't know, but you could tell when it's something from that era.
Well, it
What do you think?
was the dawn of the kind of affordable synthesizer, really. So what you ended up with was bands like us who weren't really, we're not Keith Emerson. We're not like, the keyboard player out of Toto or something.
Rick Wakeman, right?
We're Rick Wakeman. We're not virtuosi. We're just using a different palette
Right.
to create a new kind of painting. So
Worked.
yeah, and it worked, So, and also it's the birth of a lot of, an explosion of drum machines as well.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So
I
we were
agree.
with Penthouse and Pavement, we were one of the first bands in the world to use the LM1.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. There were only 50 of them in existence when we got ours. And then we got the LM2 and yada, yada, yada. But I mean, so consequently, it sounded totally different and more, yeah, futuristic, I suppose, than you would expect. The way that synthesizers were used by a lot of American bands was different because, I mean, I'm a big fan of Black American imported, soul music
Right.
and dance music in the 70s and 80s. And I'm a big fan of, bands like, Parliament Funkadelic and
Oh, yeah.
Cameo. And, I mean, and synth bass, and all
Yes.
that stuff. It's still very musical, It's like these guys could play
Yes.
largely.
That's right.
Whereas we literally, I still can't read or write music, and I'm no intention of learning now. It's too late. But it's not stopped me being a successful producer for lots of different artists and bands.
I got to ask you about, since it's Christmas time almost, do they know it's Christmas? You were on that
Yeah,
record?
yeah,
Talk
that's right.
about
Yeah.
that a little bit. That's a great story.
No, well,
Maybe not, but
no, no, no. It is an interesting story. We were friends with Midure from before any of this happened, and me and Glenn were in the pub one night, and on a Saturday night, And Glenn got a call from Midge saying, "Are you free tomorrow morning at Psalm West, which was a studio in Notting Hill near where we lived?" He said, "Would you come down and take part in? We're doing a charity record." And we both said, "What's a charity record?" Because it was nobody, we didn't really know what they
Yeah.
meant. They said, "Well, look, we're trying to." It's me and Bob Geldof, who I knew anyway, because Paul Yates, his wife, was on the first BEF album. Um, they said they're trying to assemble a lot of their friends. We're trying to break a world record
Oh,
at the Guinness Book of World Records. We're going to try and get uh, this single recorded on the Sunday, pressed up. All it said, all the pressing plants in the country are on standby.
oh,
We're going to try
wow.
and get it to the shops on Tuesday and
Okay.
get it to number one by Thursday. I said, that's not going to happen. It's insane. It's never been done before. They said, well, we're going to get massive exposure on the TV. We are encouraging everyone in the country to go and buy this record, even if you don't like the song,
Hmm.
just because it's a charity enterprise. And lo and behold, it works. So me, anyway. So the day of the recording, myself and Glenn just wandered down with a bit of a hangover, walked down the street,
Yeah.
thinking there were going to be like, five or six artists there and, usual thing,
Yeah.
a little bit secretive. Got there and there were TV crews, radio crews, press. You had to
Wow.
fight your way through.
That's
There was
something.
to get into the building. There were so many people around. They'd already started recording the backing track. And then they said, "Oh, Glenn, we'd like you to sing one of the lines with Paul Young or whatever,
Yeah.
or Sting, can't remember." And then said everybody else who's turned up, we want you to do the choral part, so the chorus
Right.
essentially. Um, and that's what we did, and it's like a whirlwind, you know.
Yeah. It's an amazing story. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't,
and of course, Trevor Horn was there, and it was mixed that night, and it was literally sent off to the pressing plants on the Sunday, I think. Started pressing them. They had like 1 million copies in the ready to go in the shops by the
that's
Monday and
amazing.
Tuesday.
Million. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as big
Yeah.
as America. So
Yeah.
actually, the distribution
But
networks it's easy to deal with in Britain. So it's not so big, but
the
incredible, really.
phenomena. That's a phenomena. Now, you didn't get to play in the show, right? That they had.
No,
Uh,
they asked us, but we didn't have a live band.
oh, okay.
Uh, so it would have meant forming a band specifically for that. And we did consider it. And then we thought, do you know what? It's kind of going again. It felt like going against what we set out to do a little bit.
Yeah.
Not that we weren't, it wasn't a dogma or anything. It's just we thought it was going to cost a lot of money to do it. And if we were going to do it, we wanted to do it really well. So, and also there's no guarantee that how many tracks you'd be playing, when you were going to be playing.
Yeah.
Some of the artists only got one song, I think, and thought it's an awful lot of trouble for that. So I think we just thought we'll leave it to the people you know, whose world that is.
I just read a book about Freddie Mercury, and I watched the Queen's performance that day, and it was just unbelievable.
Yeah, it was very good.
It was.
It's become a legend now, obviously. Um, I don't think anybody else. I don't think anybody else on the day had such a command of the audience. That's what really
That's it.
impressed people.
That
It was
impressed
like
me. Yep.
so out there and like, you know, take it or leave it. This is who I am,
Right.
and it just hit the spot, and Yeah,
I
amazing.
I never saw an audience participation like that in a gigantic with 70,000 people, everybody, it was quite phenomenal.
It takes, I mean, obviously with Hem 17, there's an awful lot of touring now, done over 600 gigs, but it's not easy the bigger the audience gets, the more of a kind of, I call it like, it's like a big dumb animal.
You're right.
That's hard to kind of, it doesn't shift as quickly as you want it to.
Yeah.
It doesn't respond as quickly. It's good, and it's generally people respond very, very well, but it's like to get people really that hyped up. It's a bit like having it's a bit like trying to get a kind of an entire audience to be a mosh pit.
That's true. You're right. That's what it
It's
felt
the
like.
same
It looked
deal.
like. Yep.
Yeah.
So did you play a lot of shows in the States, in
We
the
did a tour. We've done two tours in the States. We don't do a lot of shows because frankly it's hard to make it work economically for us.
Oh, I imagine now. Forget it.
Because of the cost of the visas. Um, Ticket prices are generally kind of the same price in dollars as they are for pounds in the UK. So
Right.
consequently, the guarantees that were offered are lower. So it's really difficult to justify because it used to be you tour to promote a CD or whatever, a record, and records aren't really paying off at the moment. So
No, no.
really, the touring itself has to be generating money, or else can't do it. So it's like a bit of chicken and egg scenario. Um, we will do some one-off shows if the money's there, but it's like the visa thing is a killer.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's very
And
difficult.
withholding taxes and all that stuff.
I saw your show with a huge orchestra there. That was
Yes.
beautiful. Oh,
Yeah. Amazing, wasn't it?
that was an amazing gig. How did you get that together?
So which one was it? Was it the one in Leeds or the one in
Yeah,
Germany?
Germany.
Germany, incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Oh,
That's a special show they do. They tour around. They do it every year. It's called Night of the Proms, and they have three kind of headline acts, and they have an eight-piece
okay.
orchestra.
Oh,
They have an eight-piece orchestra, an 18-piece electric band, and a 30-piece choir.
okay.
That's a lot of people on the road. Can you
Yeah,
imagine?
I imagine.
All with in-ear monitors. And we did three songs, and to be honest, it was one of the most thrilling experiences because our songs, I mean, they sound like James Bond themes when you add an orchestra to them. I mean, of course, Let Me Go and Temptation both had orchestras in the first place on the
Right,
recording,
right.
so it kind of makes sense. And Come Live With Me. So it's not like, oh, we're Suicide doing, X.
Yeah.
It's and a completely different thing. We kind of integrated with that orchestral world anyway. But we did one recently in Yorkshire, our home county, which was not quite as big an orchestra, but was really good as well. That's online. You can see that.
Yeah, that orchestra adds to your sound like really, really
Oh
great.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And Glenn's very good at commanding the audience.
He's a
You
great
know,
lead singer. I
he
mean,
just never hits a wrong note. Never. I've
hmm,
never ever heard him hit a wrong note.
wow. Talk about your installation with sound
Yeah.
installation. I want to hear about this because that
Yeah.
was very
Okay.
intriguing.
So roundabout, well, not roundabout, exactly the year 2000, I was speaking with Vince Clarke from Erasure, and we were getting a bit disillusioned with the state of play of the pop charts at that time.
Right,
It's a lot of boy bands, a lot of really not very good stuff,
right.
and a lot of kind of half-assed dance music. And just thought, well, this isn't very exciting. I mean, I'd done very well producing Tina Turner and Terence Trent D'Arby, Nando Maitreya is known as now, and lots of other artists. I just didn't find all that stuff exciting. So me and Vince decided, can we press reset and find out? and try and figure out what excites us about what's coming next for the new millennium. And we went for a we were discussing forming a company to do work to do composition for media and film.
Oh,
And
okay.
then we went to a demonstration of 5.1 at one of our favorite studios and wasn't terribly impressed. I was impressed with the technology, not the content, because they were doing things like taking original multi-tracks of, you know, the band and Bob Dylan and, like things that it's like, and, you know,
All right.
what you can put you in the middle of the band. So what? I was excited about the idea of kind of electronic music combined with spatiality,
Oh,
because
okay.
it's more an abstract palette, right?
Right.
Um, so we were asked. So we formed this company called Illustrious Company, and we got our first commission was to create a 3D sound theatre in a new building in Sheffield called the Museum of Popular Music, and it's an auditorium with ambisonic sound and da 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 da. And we were commissioned to create a kind of demonstration piece for people to show what the future was going to be like.
Hmm.
And we loved it so much, myself and Vince, that we thought, well, let's do an album's worth of it. We did it with Mute Records, which is Vince's label. We put that out as an album called Pretentious, and we loved that. And then did another installation called Spectrum Pursuit Vehicle, and they put that album out as well. And we thought, and then we started getting lots of work
Oh,
for
okay.
installations in museums,
Wow.
big outdoor
Y-
events all around the world, not just in the UK, Mexico, the Far East, Africa, several in New York. Um, we even presented to Disney and DreamWorks in Anaheim back in 2003.
Wow,
And it
that's
was just
incredible.
too early. It was just too early for them.
Yeah.
They just wrapped their heads around Dolby, and Dolby had got
Hmm.
their claws into them, as they still
Yeah,
have,
of
and
course.
they weren't ready to kind of go with some alien technology. So, uh, but anyway, we did. To this day, we've done like probably 80 major installations in three-dimensional sound. If anybody's interested, they should
Yes, I would really be interested, I think. Or
go to our website, which is illustriouscompany.co.uk,
okay.
and you'll see a vast range of things. And we did things
Oh.
like we did the whole of the Millennium Bridge during the 2012 Olympics in London in
Oh, that's
three-dimensional
pretty
sound.
neat.
Yeah, we've done
Man.
like Trafalgar Square and Leicester Square and yeah, loads and loads of stuff.
And
So,
some of this is still up. You said
yeah,
that.
yeah, there's not many permanent installations, mostly the temporary installations, but there's a couple in museums around Britain. There's one in a town called Port Merion in
Okay.
North Wales, which is permanent. Um, but we do 3 or 4 major projects a year on average.
That is, I mean, I never knew. And that's really fascinating. I mean,
Yeah.
I never would have known that. That's really something for everybody to know about. That's an important part of your legacy here.
Yeah.
So Heaven 17 is still, you guys are still going to be still playing after 40 plus years.
45 years. Yeah.
Oh,
Good Lord, next
wow.
year. So, yeah, 45 years this year, actually. I think we formed in November 80. Yeah. So, yeah, we just finished a big UK tour, which was very successful. We're doing a big German tour next year. We're doing loads of festival dates. We're doing a Caribbean 80s cruise
Oh, that's
in
funny.
February.
That's
Um,
great. Those are
I think
popular.
they are, yeah, yeah. So I think on the same cruise is people like Howard Jones and Mark Armand and various other 80s
Uh,
acts, some American 80s acts as well. Um, and yeah, just like loads and loads of work. We're doing it. We're working on a new Heaven 17 album, the
Oh, you are. Okay.
first one in nearly 12 years.
Oh, that's
Um,
great.
we're two-thirds of the way through that. I'm doing a new BEF album next year, which I haven't done for ages,
Okay.
which is going to be BEF Music Quality and Distinction Volume 4 Electro Funkificator.
That's a great name. I love it.
So it's going to be based on my love of electro funk. And I think we all need cheering up in today's world, don't we? So
Yes, of
I
course.
thought something a bit more light-hearted. I mean, the last BEF album I did was called Dark because I could see what was coming down the tunnel, and I think we need something to help break us out of this depression that
Yes,
a
of
lot of
course.
people are feeling.
People are down, but what do you think of modern music these days? That everybody that keeps, computer generated music. What's your feeling on that?
Well, I mean, I was a principal of until recently uh, of a master's course in songwriting and production in London. And so I got to mentor lots of young artists.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
and it's a tough world for them out there because
I'm sure it is.
there's no a lot of record companies don't want to pay money to support an artist while they develop their craft.
That's
So
true.
it's left to the, shall we say, market forces of whether they can get live gigs to support themselves, um, which I think is terrible, frankly, because I wouldn't have had a career of any description had it been this model now. I'm pretty certain. Um, and and regarding AI, I don't think it's going away, unfortunately.
No, no, it isn't.
It's pointless just railing against it. What you got to do is to try and identify the creative uses of it, but also act as advocates for the maintenance of human agency in the whole thing. Because if we're looking at charts that are more than half AI generated, people won't be interested.
Right, right. And
And
that's
so the
what's
whole the whole the whole economic model collapses.
it
That's
does.
what I think, anyway. Now
I
I understand why people might want to use generic music for, TV shows or adverts or something like that. I understand that
right.
because it's cheaper, right?
Exactly.
But if you're talking about if we're looking at the future of music and creating new forms of music, it can be used as a tool to,
Right.
to
I
help your
agree.
workflow, but it can't be used as a magic bullet that you can't, I can't endorse a world where somebody sits like I'm sitting in my front room and goes, "Oh, write me an album about international warfare." And the next thing you know, and I want two tracks that are up tempo. I want four that are mid tempo and a couple of sad songs. You know, I'm pretty certain that within 5 years or less, that will be that easy to
Oh
do.
yeah. I'm sure it's almost now. I mean,
Well,
it's
almost now. In fact,
yeah.
I've got
That's what's scary.
I've got
That's what really is really frightening in this whole thing. But
yeah,
as
I've
you,
got I've got an app called Suno
oh,
where you
that's
give,
it. I know them. Right.
yeah, where you give it a prompt and the stuff that comes
Yes,
out sounds very professional,
it does.
including the vocals and everything. It's really scary.
I know. It's just, but I think people still want to see live music. They're still going to be drawn to that, and then hopefully that'll keep music alive. That people will go to shows and see your band play, or whoever is coming out. Because
Well, I think people understand now that the only way that directly people are gonna be encouraged to keep going is they need I'm not talking about the top 3% or something. I'm not talking about Beyonce and you know Ed Sheeran or something. I'm talking about the average act, either mid-range or just starting out their journey. They need supporting. I mean, if you go to see a
Yeah, it's
young
true.
band and you enjoy their stuff, go and buy some merch. Don't just buy a ticket because
Right.
that money goes directly to them.
That's
You
it.
know, and the same is true for everybody.
Yep.
It's you know it's not really complex because they can't earn enough money from streaming services.
No, that's for sure. They got to get a following. That's the hard part to get the following and to make it happen. They need to sell their merchandise there, and it's not easy.
Well, just one story quickly.
Sure.
Um, I saw there's a guy online who I can't remember his name now, but he does a series of video podcasts explaining the elements of the music industry now. And he did one about how many streams do you need to get each month to earn the UK minimum wage, which is about 12 quid an hour, I think.
Hmm.
So for a 40-hour week. So 160 hours of work. And he figured out that you have to have uh, people have to stream your work 700,000 times a month.
Oh my gosh.
For one person. That's if one
Wow.
person wrote and owns the copyright on that. Now, I'm in a band where it's split three ways, right? So it's even worse than that.
Yeah.
We, as a band that's a reasonably popular band that's been around for 45 years, average around 350,000 streams per month on Spotify.
Okay.
So that's half of what's required for one person
That's
to get a
crazy.
minimum wage. I think it's an absolute abomination.
It is. It is. I thought of putting these podcasts on Spotify. I said, you know what? I'm just going to keep it on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm not making money on this. I'm
No,
doing this
no.
for the love of
All the
music.
podcasts I do, I don't make money on. You know, you do it
No,
as a passion, right?
and I appreciate you coming on. I've had some artists who wanted money, a lot of money, a lot of money. I won't mention
Oh
any
my
names.
God.
Tons of money, not
Good
just,
luck good luck with that one.
yeah. I said, thank you, bye bye. I mean, so it's
Yeah.
crazy.
I think
So
it's easy. I think it's easy to filter the people who are involved in music for the right reasons, and
that's
the ones who are doing it as a revenue stream. Because frankly, most people have to be doing it for passion, or else they wouldn't be doing it now.
that's true. And you guys are still doing it because you
Yeah,
love
we
doing
love
it.
what we do, and it's paid off so far, but it's getting more difficult.
I'm sure it is. So
Yeah,
where can we find all your music besides your website? Maybe you could.
all the streaming
Okay,
platforms.
of
We're
course.
everywhere. We're ubiquitous. That's the word.
Oh, that's great. Well,
Yeah.
Martyn, I really appreciate your time. It's been an honor meeting you. You've been a pioneer of all this music, and
Thank you.
good luck
Can
to
I
you
just
coming up.
can I just plug something?
Sure, whatever you
Two
like.
two things. One is for nearly 5 years, I did a podcast called Electronically Yours,
Okay.
where I interviewed over 260 of my contemporaries.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And that's still up online now. I've finished doing it 3 months ago. So go and check that out because
Okay.
there's a lot of, I mean, people like
I can't wait to see that.
Tony Visconti, Jam and Lewis,
Wow.
you know, a lot, Dr. Fink, um, Martin Fry, blah blah blah, loads and loads
Did
and
you get
loads.
a big subscriber base of
Oh
people?
yeah, huge. But it started tailing off, so I thought I'd rather do something. I'd rather try something new and go out
Okay.
while it's successful.
Yeah, that's
Um,
great.
so I started a new podcast three
Okay.
months ago called Sound Power, which is
Okay.
about the more esoteric end of how sound is, what the future of sound is going to be like, how it's going to be used, like sound healing, uh, uh,
Oh, okay.
incredibly interesting things about sound and how it influences our lives, how we
Yeah.
use it in different circumstances, talking to experts and artists. And so I think people will find that interesting as well.
Christmas to you, and stay
Yeah.
healthy and healthy. And thank you again for your contribution
Thanks
to
very
music
much,
here.
man. I
Okay,
enjoyed
Martin.
it.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you.